Hello there, good afternoon, good morning, and welcome to Newsroom here on GHOne Television. We are coming to you live from our studios here at the Platinum Place, Northridge, also live on Facebook, on YouTube, and also on X at GHOne TV. Here's what to expect in the next hour. Now, top government officials allegedly defy president's orders to declare assets, defaulting the March 31 deadline given. Also, NPP 2024 flag bearer aspirant Kennedy Ohene Ejapon withdraws from party's thank you tour, presenting himself as contender in next elections. Almost 4 months after election 2024, Ablekuma North remains unrepresented as political parties wait for Electoral Commission's next move over disputed results. Deputy Attorney General states Ghana Bar Association decision on Chief Justice as non-binding as he points inconsistencies in GBA's move on the matter. And elsewhere, Swedish police arrest teenager after fatal triple shooting in city of Uppsala on Tuesday. No, it hasn't. Grateful for your company this morning. I am Joshua Kodjo Mensah. Now, a report by the Fourth Estate indicates that 55 appointees in the GHOne Mahama administration have defied the president's ultimatum to declare their assets and liabilities by the 31st of March 2025 deadline, which was given. Now, the Fourth Estate says its analysis reveals that 9 out of 55 ministers and deputy ministers have failed to comply with the law and the president's directive. Similarly, 8 out of 32 presidential staffers and 37 of the 84 heads of state institutions appointed between January 15 and March 18 have yet to meet the president's anti-graft directive as of April 17, 2024. Now, this means that 32% of the appointees have ignored the president's directive and failed to fulfill an important constitutional obligation. Prominent figures on the list of defaulters in the new administration include Seth Tekpe, who is presidential advisor on the economy, Larry Bevlo Latte, special envoy to the Alliance of Sahelian States, Nathan Kofi-Boakye, director of operations at the presidency, Charles Kipo, director of the National Investigations Bureau, Nanaya Jantoa, a presidential staffer, Ernest Bojajemfi, the deputy minister of defense, Al Hassan Suini, deputy minister of roads and highways, Gisela Tete Agbotui, deputy minister of works and housing, and John Dumelo, who is Deputy Minister of Food and Agriculture. Now, others on the list of defaulters include Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Anthony Kwesi Sapong, and Dr. Peter Otokuno, who is in charge of presidential initiatives in agriculture and agribusiness at the presidency. Well, let's have a conversation on this particular development. Former Auditor General Daniel Yaw-Domelevo is joining me via Zoom to have a conversation on this. Thank you so much, Mr. Domelevo, for joining us. It's nice speaking to you this morning, but I remember that this is something that you have been particularly interested in, declaring of assets. We are told by the Fourth Estate that, well, some staffers as well as ministers and deputies have not declared their assets as of yet.
Appointment letters and said, but you have assumed the office. If you have not been appointed, then why did you take the office? The Constitution actually does not talk about when you receive your appointment letter. It says before taking office. So once you are in that position, I think you must do the needful. I think the president must send a signal that the days of indiscipline in public office are gone, and discipline them.
So for you, it doesn't matter whether you're in an acting position or not. So long as you've assumed the role, then you should be able to comply.
Well, if you read Article 286, it says before taking office. So the question is whether you have taken office or you have not taken office.
Right.
Once you have taken office, you must declare. And you see, what even disturbed me is that, from my point of view, we must go according to what the Constitution says, not what Act 550 says, which says not later than 6 months after you have taken office. Now, the president has found a middle way to say that, okay, between the Constitution and the Act, declare by 31st of March. That is an instruction from your boss or your superior. And if you cannot comply with simple instructions, such as declare your assets, how sure are we that public funds will be safe in your hands? That's the issue. The declaration of assets and liabilities is to be able to contain public office holders, so that they will not acquire assets illicitly when they are in office. Because Article 2A6, I think the 4 or 5, says that after your first declaration and your subsequent declaration, if the increase in assets cannot be attributed to your known sources of income, then it is presumed that you acquired those assets unconstitutionally. So it is to put a check on office holders. And if you will not subject yourself to it, then why do we tolerate you? But honestly, my brother, the point is that we have gotten to where we are because the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice, which should have whipped public office holders who refuse to declare their assets and liabilities, have been too lenient to them in the past. And anytime there are no consequences for misbehavior, it brings about impunity. That is why we are seeing what we are seeing now. So I think the president should set a good example by saying that, look, not this time, not under my administration.
But is it not also the case? Right. You said that,
of course, if the people have justification, maybe somebody was sick from the day that he was appointed, or government sent him somewhere, and as a result, they couldn't find. But if there is no good justification, the ass must fall now.
And we have seen some key names in the list being mentioned, including the director of protocol at the presidency, the director of operations, Nathan Kofi Boakye, mentioned in this one. If the president has to dismiss them without any tangible reason, isn't that going to affect John Mahama's presidency as well?
Why are you being specific on individuals? It's a matter of principles. We should not be talking.
No, I'm just saying that names have been mentioned there. I'm just citing an example.
Yes, on the other hand, it is also going to affect his administration when it is known publicly that you can be disobeyed,
right,
and nothing happens. That is a terrible one. It's more difficult. It is more disastrous for such a perception to be created than to say, look, if you misbehave, it doesn't matter who you are, the ass will fall. Well, discipline in the public sector.
Very key. But Mr. Domelevo, today is April 30, and the deadline was in March. And so, how soon are you expecting to hear the president on this all-important issue?
If this information has been brought to his notice, then I'm waiting to hear from him today.
Today?
To just ask his chief of staff to wipe all of them. Wipe them. So you go. I'll look for other people to do the work.
Right. Mr. Domelevo, thank you so much for your time this morning. Daniel Yao Domelevo is a former Auditor General, and he's quite clear, without mincing words, if the people who have been found complicit do not have any tangible reason, President Mahama should let them go. But away from that, let's talk about a sad incident that happened in the Ashanti region, because a student from Unity Hall at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology is fighting for his life at the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital in Kumasi after being stabbed during a violent incident at the New Patriotic Party's National Thank You Tour in the Ashanti region. Now, the chaos erupted on Tuesday, shortly after a meeting at the Bantama Church of Pentecost, where a man identified as Maxi, a car dealer and staunch supporter of NPP's 2024 flag bearer aspirant Kennedy Ohene-Japong, allegedly threw money to a group of Unity Hall students who had come to support the former Member of Parliament for Asin Central. Now, according to eyewitnesses, a group of heavily built men arrived in a Toyota vehicle and attempted to forcibly seize the cash. Now, in the process, warning shots were fired and machetes were seen being brandished and dragged across the asphalt road, creating panic among bystanders. Now, during the commotion, a student was stabbed and left bleeding at the scene. He was later rushed to the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital for emergency care. Now, Shaibu Lassis, a member of Kennedy Japon's team, told EIB News' Ashanti regional correspondent Isaac Justice Bediako that after the group stabbed the boy, leaving him to die, bystanders rushed him to the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital. Now, Kennedy Japan is believed to be currently ensuring the victim receives the best treatment. Well, in the aftermath of this, Kennedy Japan, we are told, has pulled out of the party's thank you tour to shield his team after a stabbing incident in Bantuma. Now, while addressing the news conference in Kumasi, he said his decision was motivated by a desire to preserve unity within the NPP. He also noted that he will not be intimidated by the incident, but will ensure that the staff student is served justice while declaring his intention to rerun as NPP flag bearer.
We want out so that Dr. Bawumia can do his campaign too. I admit that he was the flag bearer. So if he's going round and for the sake of unity, he invites it and it turns out to be something different. I mean, we just have to stay away for them to do their own thing. So in brief, all I'm saying is my team is pulling out, but I still call for unity in the party. This will not scare me to leave the party. We built the party from 1990 till now. So as for intimidation, they should rest assured that intimidation will not help them. I'm not somebody you can intimidate for me to stay out of the party. I'm still a party member. I'm calling for unity. And therefore, if I'm preaching for unity, I will not preach violence. I just want everybody, all supporters, to calm down. But I'll make sure justice is done to the student who was hurt. In one breath, Kennedy Japan is preaching unity, and another breath is preaching violence. It doesn't make me the real Kennedy Japan they know. There is a clear indication from Brekum to Kumasi tells me that, look, you are not needed, you are not wanted. So we are pulling out. Let them do their own thing. And at an appropriate time, I assure them that we are also going to campaign. I want everybody to know, every party member to know that I'm going to contest. Until they should be ready. And respectfully, nobody can tell me to back off. I will not back off.
So you heard Kennedy Japan there. He is going to contest and no one can tell him to back off. Now, reacting to the incident, spokesperson for the Kennedy Japan campaign team, Kwesi Kwarton, says what happened at Bantama was not an accident but a carefully orchestrated scene targeted at them. He spoke to Nadi Tete on the Morning Star.
Obviously for us, we don't think this is a coincidence. It is not a case that they were just arguing or fighting over money. And let me also state and place on emphasis that the dispute over the money was not among the students. It was between the heavily built metromen and the students who snatched the money. So the connection is that when they prevented these guys and they also disobeyed them by forcing their way through to come and sing for Oraboken, they later targeted them and eventually had to create a scene from the donation that was made to the guys. And obviously, I mean, the unfortunate happened, which had to do with the stabbing of one of these young guys. But let me state categorically that I do not think this is an endorsement from any of the leading, figures. Obviously, it will be some of these disgruntled and supporters who act in excess. We do that, but certainly they will be aligned because it was a party event, and personally, anybody would think that people that comes there are party members. But let me also hasten to add that they do not belong to our camp. It can only reasonably presuppose that they were just targeted, but they had to use the dispute over the money as a small screen to justify what they did.
Right.
But obviously they were brought there by somebody who certainly will be aligned to any of the.
Well, still in the camp of the NPP, national organizer of the party, Henry Nana Boachi, says the ongoing internal wranglings during the party's thank you tour is a natural part of the party's healing process. Now, following the NPP's tragic loss in the 2024 elections, the party has completed investigations into the defeat and is currently on a tour to thank party sympathizers and resell the party's image. Nana Boachi urged party members to set aside their personal interests and focus on party unity, emphasizing that the party's future must take precedence over individual ambitions.
We do not just make decisions. The decision was made by the second highest decision-making body of the party, that is National Council. And if you consider what is happening, It is not as if it is the former vice president saying something against Kennedy Japan or Kennedy saying something against former, but no. I've been in the meetings. I only left the tour to organize the demonstration we have next week, Monday. So I've been there. I've listened to the message. Honorable Kennedy's message is about unity, is about togetherness, let's close our ranks, and then all of that. So it is not about that. In fact, what happened in Bono was actually between the Bono regional chairman and Kennedy Japan. And afterwards, you saw how the vice president out.
Your best is near buying. So my two parties, you know. Omumbele course no money re-election. I first dream lazy.
Yani I say a dream. Say me a woman wa Ablekuma no fati. Yani see. Obi fu from bra. Ni enso no sunye den. Enhwe. Enti bi oye ya. Ochina ebeti ni akoshi baby. Ene yeti court. Ene yeti court. Sesi aye humeti Ablekuma no ye humeti. Yes renu. Onyai no bi mbra.
Yen udi aye nimu no. Ye de ye kan wa. MPP na afa. Because the MPP na afa can go shape maybe a papers in the guno. Fiti ya to about da no. Yan ko shape papers da. Nti omu hu MPP na wi nti no ko shape papers no.
NDC's Irabna Obing and MPP's Nana Owusu-Efriye have both mounted billboards across the constituency claiming victory. The situation stems from the inability of the Electoral Commission to verify 3 outstanding polling station results to finalize the declaration of the winner.
For me to make this statement that I'm done with Ablekuma, they should find a new returning officer to continue their work for them.
The minority caucus in Parliament, led by its chief whip, Frank Anodompre, is demanding swift action. Speaking during a solidarity visit to the Ablekuma North constituency, the minority issued a 1-week ultimatum to the Inspector General of Police to provide security for the Electoral Commission to announce the official results.
If the NDC led by Mahama Yariga will not be reasonable, no matter Ablekuma North, based on all the evidence available, Yewinia, no more margin somebody to trust them, they will continue. You are not going to allow the EC to collect. We are giving the EC 1 week. 1 week. 1 week, 7 days. The EC must come and declare our candidate as the winner of the Ablekuma election.
During the visit, MPP parliamentary candidate for the Ablekuma North constituency, Nana Owusu-Efriye, urged her supporters to remain calm and resolute, adding that the Electoral Commission will eventually declare her as Member of Parliament for the Ablekuma North constituency.
Legal domain, because the Circuit Court in Accra has remanded 4 persons into narcotics control custody until May 6 for possession and an attempted exportation of narcotic drugs. Now the 4, Gary Basoli, an artifact dealer, Josiah Baini, Emmanuel Mensah and Kwabna Ampofo Anti, all freight forwarders, were arraigned on 4 charges. The provisional charges are conspiracy to commit crime, namely attempted exportation of narcotics drugs without license, attempted exportation of narcotics drugs without license, conspiracy to possess narcotics drugs without lawful authority, and possession of narcotics drugs without lawful authority. Now, their pleas have not been taken while the court, presided over by Justice Ellen Ofe-Aye, Justice of the High Court, sitting as an additional High Court judge, has adjourned to May 6, 2025. Now, the brief facts of the case were that the witnesses in the case are authorized officers of the Narcotics Control Commission, NACOC, stationed at the Swiss Port Cargo Terminal of the Kotoka International Airport here in Accra. Now, it said the suspect, Gary Basoli, is an artifact dealer operating from the Art Exhibition Center in Accra, while suspect Josiah Baini, Emmanuel Mensah and Kwabna Ampofo Entry are freight forwarders and employees of Ansadis Shipping and Logistics Company Limited, located at the Alliance Cargo Village at the Kotoka International Airport. And so we'll get to Mutala Inusa, legal affairs correspondent, to tell us more on this particular development. Mutala has joined us. Mutala, so what more do you know about this particular case?
So, per the information that the prosecution is giving to the court, it is clear that further investigation will have to be conducted so that at the next court sitting, the plea of the accused persons would be taken. What was clear before the court today was to ensure that the accused persons are remanded, and rightly so. Justice Ellen Ofeaye, who was sitting as an additional high judge at the circuit court, made the point that at the next court sitting, when the court sits, the plea of the accused person will be taken. But what is clear for now is that they be remanded into the custody of the Narcotic Control Commission for upon prosecution request that further or more investigation ought to be done in the matter of this particular case that landed in court today.
So we know that today was the day set for a final decision to be reached on the Akwatia MP. You've been in court. What's the update on that?
Yes, Joshua, on the 26th of March, that was where the 5-member panel of the Supreme Court, presided over by Justice Gabriel Paman, indicated that on the 30th of April, the court will deliver rulings. In fact, the application before the court are two different ones. One seeking a restraining order against the High Court judge, and the other leg borders on the contempt application, the contempt conviction, which they are seeking the court to set aside. What was clear before the court was that when the panel sat, and clearly through the presiding judge, Justice Gabriel Paman, they said that the court is, unfortunately, the court has been occupied in the last few days, and so the ruling of the court isn't ready. The rulings of the court were not ready. For that matter, they are going to give the parties a date for them to come for the ruling to be done. And in this case, the court has since settled on June 11, I beg your pardon. So that ruling that we're expecting today, which will point to the fact that whether the High Court in Florida was right in hearing those applications which led to NS Yaokumi being convicted, awaiting the sentence which the court has put a hold on, that was not able to happen at the Supreme Court. They have to wait until June 11 when the court thinks that, or court was of the view that that day their rulings will happen or will be ready, because until now, issues happening, the court is more occupied to the extent that they are unable to put that ruling together or have the full ruling of the court in relation to the matters.
So as it stands now, NS Yaokumi has to wait for some extra time to get to know exactly the decision that will be taken on him.
Absolutely so. In fact, he was present at the Supreme Court today. And in fact, if you look at the numbers also that showed up at the Supreme Court, it tells you that a lot more people are still having this very case in mind, both from the NDC side, both from the NPP side, the lawyers, the Desire, and the NAD. But the interesting one, you note that at the last court sitting, what the panel or the court said was that the tension in town is too much. And so the parties owe it a duty to ensure that they douse that particular tension that has been associated with the case. And if you come to the Supreme Court today, the energy is different. The parties seem very relaxed. Both legal counsel, Gary Nimaku and Bedant Bediako, all of them spoke in their common voice, preaching peace, aware of the view that, yes, this is a battle of wits. It doesn't make us enemies. But until then, they have to wait until June 11 when the Supreme Court is hopeful that the rulings will be ready.
Thank you so much for the report there. Now, the Ghana Bar Association has stirred the hornet's nest, demanding an immediate revocation of the suspension of the Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Isaba Tokono as Chief Justice. Now, in a resolution passed at its 2025 media conference held over the weekend, the GBA also called on the President, John Dramani Mahama, to immediately release publicly the full decision that established a prima facie case against the Chief Justice.
The Ghana Bar Association are entitled to pass resolution on any issue that you want to pass. Whether that resolution is something that you will advise the authority to take, we respect the view of the Ghana Bar Association. We will take their view, in other words, the suggestion in the resolution to account, in advising the President on what to do about this. And as far as we are concerned, the Constitution does not allow any person to publish the proceedings or the petition or the decision of the Council of State in collaboration, in consultation with the president. That decision is not part of the things that are allowed by the Constitution to put out there. So we will continue to respect the provisions of the Constitution. Until such a time that Ghana Bar Association is able to have the Constitution amended to allow that thing to be published. And I think there's been a lot of discussion on this matter. So we said about that publishing the proceedings or anything concerning the process to constitute a violation of the Constitution. We cannot advise the President to do such a thing.
Let's now have a conversation with the former director of the Ghana School of Law, Kwasi Asare. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. So as it stands now, I remember in earlier interactions you mentioned that you don't see where President Mahama might have erred even in terms of the Constitution in the suspension, because the suspension did not necessarily mean or did not mean in any way that the Chief Justice had been relieved of her duties. Now the GBA says they believe that the President erred constitutionally on this matter. How do you interpret the statement of the Ghana Bar Association on this development?
First and foremost, I think that the position taken by the Ghana Bar Association contradicts his earlier statement in the history and stated clearly that what the President had done so far was in consonance with the Constitution. And therefore, this Ghana Bar claim is a bit surprising. The bar is approbating and reprobating. They are blowing hot and cold at the same time. They cannot in one breath say that the due process must be observed, and then in another, call for reversal of the suspension of the Chief Justice. It's all, what the Ghana Bar Association is doing now is rather unconstitutional. The position it has taken is unconstitutional. It has no support in the Constitution. Once the machinery has been set in motion, it should be allowed to completion. No one is above the Constitution. The Ghana Bar Association is not above the Constitution. The Supreme Court is not above the Constitution. Let us all support the constitutional process. People will be questioning the motive behind this latest tweak by the Ghana Bar Association. For my part, I roundly condemn the Bar Association's resolution and say that the repercussions for the future, if the President should accede to their request, will be injurious to the interest of the state. Let this constitutional process go through the constitutional phases. The first phase, the petition has been done, is constitutional. Second phase, the President forwarded it to Council of State, is constitutional. The third phase was consultation, is constitutional. The fourth phase, the President, in consultation with the Council of State, has set up a committee of 5 persons. The composition is constitutional. And pursuant to the establishment of the 5-member committee, the follow-up is the obvious and natural suspension of the Chief Justice. A lot of things have been said about the Chief Justice. At least, let her be said in her defense. Trying to reverse and reverse the whole process will not do any good to either the nation or the judiciary or the Chief Justice. Once it has started, let us see it to completion. So far, the President has acted according to due process. The Ghana Bar Association is seeking to box the President into an unorthodox corner. The President should not listen to them. The President hasn't faulted in any way. It is rather the bar that is seeking to play politics. And I don't think that it should be allowed to continue. Secondly, this view, which is speculating that the Ghana Bar has said, I'm a member of the bar. I don't subscribe to that view. Many more members, like-minded members of the bar, do not support, the call by the GBA. And therefore, the division in the opinion of the Ghana Bar that presenting a picture of unanimity dubious, and to say the least.
So you say this position by the Bar Association is not reflective of the general position of all members of the Bar?
It is not the general position of the members of the Bar.
Right.
It's the position of those who attended the mid-year conference, and what is the total number of the Bar, and how many people did attend, the mid-year conference. In any case, who authorized the release of the statement, that the Bar made before the mid-year conference. So you see the contradiction in terms. Before the mid-year conference, the Bar Association was all for due process. Then after the mid-year conference, the Bar Association, was all against due process. I mean, this sort of, somersaulting should not be allowed to do.
Right. Now, they are also in that statement also requesting a disclosure of the prima facie that was established after the Council of State looked at the petitions and also had the response from the Chief Justice.
Well, according to the dictates of the Constitution, the prima facie case is established in camera in consultative or personal consultation between the President and the Council of State. What the Bar says has no support at the moment in the Constitution. It is rather the consecutive stages outlined in the Constitution that we should all uphold. Not what the Bar is saying. Whether it is true or not true, then everybody says that. I'm saying that the Bar's call is unconstitutional. The President, the constitutional processes so far have been in accordance with the dictates of the Constitution.
Well, Mr. Ansasari, thank you so much for giving us some light on the matter there. That's GHOne Ansasari, former director of the Ghana School of Law. But this has generated a lot of controversy since the GBA statements became public. And you've been sharing your thoughts also on the matter. Nana Markwa has joined me with reactions on social media to this particular development. Nana, so what really are the concerns of people regarding the issues raised by the Ghana Bar Association?
Well, the majority are asking what constitutional breaches has the president made. When we move over to Facebook, Maxwell says, okay, fine. Let's agree, without admitting that the GBA have a case. Now they should cite the exact article as our victims. Fred says that Efwa Gate, president of GBA, is married to Joe Gate, an MPP member. So she has been influenced, but if she can see this comment, she's not wiser than those who sat and wrote the Constitution. He says, is clueless, and all GBA whatsoever should get away. We move over to Instagram. The GBA is completely useless now. Gone are those days of old newspapers age when the GBA is so-called relevant. We also have Yao, that GBA president Ankasa needs to step down, he believes. We have Nick, which of the bars? Kiso Bar or Blue Balls Bar and pub located at Medina? I think the court is the best place to go. Thought these are lawyers. Or when we move over to X, we have Nana Grants. The GBA is just like a boys' brigade. Its publication is bogus. It cannot be a yardstick even for assessing the status of lawyers in much the same way as attendance of the association's meetings or ceremonies or the wearing of gowns in court. We're not measuring rods for determining who is in good standing. They should be called NPP GBA. Mami Essie adds, once upon a time, Professor Mills left the GBA because of their political nature. They've always been in bed with the NPP because their members continually defend corruption. Ghana is being reset with or without them. Then Kofi says, if they are lawyers worth their salt, they should head to the Supreme Court for interpretation. Kwesi adds, if you don't have money in Ghana, you can't win any court case. And GBA is saying this is the way to go. Very pity. Then Mr. Ward Brew, which constitutional provision has been broken? Quote the article so we can all read some. Then we have Frosty. The GBA hasn't realized that their silence over matters arising in the past 8 years has gutted any goodwill they had. They're officially the enemy of Ghana and Ghanaians, according to Frosty. Now, this action, he says, in which they provide no argument for their request is proof that they're a partisan organization. Benjamin says this Chief Justice will be powerful, or this Chief Justice be powerful like NPP party. And our last comment is from Lachman Group. Gradually, the GBA is becoming irrelevant. Which constitutional provision has been breached? They can't even provide one. What a shame. They only find their voice when the NDC is in office and lose it when their favorite MPP is there. It's a big shame on the GBA. Well, that is what you have to say. You're wondering which constitutional article has been breached by the president. Let's hope that they will come back and tell us which one. My name is Nanama Akwa. Joshua, back over to you.
Many thanks to you, Nanama, for letting us know what people are saying loud on social media. We'll take a breather here, but when we do return, we have more for you. Stay with us. Well, welcome back to the bulletin. Let's do some more stories. And the Tertiary Education Workers Union of Ghana at KNUST have declared a strike. For 3 years, TEU Ghana has been demanding recognition after it joined colleagues in all public universities to break away from the Teachers and Education Workers Union of the Trade Union Congress, that's TEU-TUC. Now, the union is angered. The Ghana Tertiary Education Council, GTEC, favors a TEU-TUC nominee to represent them on the University Governing Council against a majority decision. KNUST chairman of TEU Ghana, Charles Arthur, has been leading hundreds of his members in a news conference.
That GTEC, a regulatory body whose mandate includes promoting equity, quality and fairness in tertiary education governance, would involve itself in such an unwarranted and illegitimate decision. This is not just about KNUST. It sets a dangerous precedent for all public universities in Ghana and risks escalating unnecessary tensions on campuses. The voice of the majority cannot be sidelined by administrative bias of Professor Ahmed Ablekuma, the Director General of GTEC. We therefore demand the following: immediate withdrawal of TEU-TUC's appointment as the workers' representative on the KNUST Governing Council. 2. Immediate recognition of TEU Ghana as the rightful and majority union to represent workers' interests on the council. 3. A clear and transparent process from GTEC in dealing with union representation going forward with respect for democratic union choice. We call on the President, the Chief of Staff, Ministry of Education and all stakeholders to take urgent interest in this matter and help restore fairness and due process to tertiary education governance. We once again call on the Director General of GTEC, Professor Ahmed Ablekuma, to immediately reverse this unjust decision and restore TEU Ghana, KNUST local's rightful place on the KNUST Governing Council. Ladies and gentlemen, until and unless Director General of GTEC reverses this unjust decision, TEU Ghana, KNUST local hereby declare an indefinite strike effective today, Wednesday, 30th April 2020.
Well, let's now bring you business on the bulletin. Now, the Ministry of Communication and Digital Technology and Innovation says it is working closely with the Cybersecurity Authority, the National Communications Authority, and the Data Protection Commission to investigate a potential breach affecting 5,700 MTN customers. MTN, however, assured the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of their system remains central to how it operates and serves customers. As investigation is still ongoing, the ministry is urging customers to remain calm and vigilant. Subscribers who are victims of this breach will be contacted by the service provider subsequently on the way forward. Well, let's speak to Evans Otumfuo. He's the General Secretary for the Momo Agents Association of Ghana. Evans, thank you so much. I mean, your customers raised issues. Even some of your colleagues as well raised concerns about this. Now, the Communications Ministry says it is in touch with MTN and the service provider to be able to ensure that all these breaches are addressed. How do you receive this news? Right, we are trying to establish contact with Evans Otumfuo, who is General Secretary of the Momo Agents Association of Ghana, and we would like to find out from him exactly how they make of this directive or this assurance given by the Communications Ministry. Evans, we lost you, but can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. So I'm asking, what is your initial reaction to the plans by the Ministry of Communications to liaise with other agencies to investigate this particular breach that affected not just your customers, but also some of your colleagues as well?
I mean, it is a call in the right direction. Data sanctity and safety of consumers or customers' data is something that is very important and is at the heart of the Data Protection Commission. And also, it is very critical for the individual whose data is being stored by any of the telcos, be it MTN, Telecel, Airtel, Tigo, and any other institution or company that always takes or would need data of their clients or their consumers. The safety of the data is very important. And, a data that is being breached, it makes the consumer susceptible to all forms of cyber crimes and attacks. We could all recently see the increasing spate of fraudulent activities that consumers are always complaining about. So, for an investigation or an effort to be led by government agencies, especially the Data Protection Commission, the Ministry of Communication, the National Communications Authority, and by extension, the Ghana Police Service, I think it is the right step that government has taken, which would, in a way, help to restore confidence in consumers or customers when it comes to providing data to whatever organization. So it is rather unfortunate that we would have to get to this point, but then I think half a loaf is better than none, and for government to really take this step to make sure that future occurrences are prevented, we think that this is the right step that government has taken, and we would support government in whichever capacity that we can also to make sure that this exercise becomes very successful and beneficial to all of us.
Evans, thank you. Thank you so much, and we'll be looking forward to that support. But it's time to bring in the latest in the world of sports.
Welcome on to Sports with Ghana's para-athlete Zinabu Isa and tennis sensation Gilbert Ampia, who are participants of the El Hassan International Para-Athletes in Marrakesh, Morocco, have given their medals to the president of the Paralympic Committee, Samson Dean, in a ceremony held at the head office of the committee in Accra. Speaking at the ceremony, Samson Dean emphasized his commitment to creating awareness for para-athletes in Ghana.
I want to use this opportunity to announce that the athletes from the Ghana Para-Athletics Association presented to the NPC. We are doing this as part of the proper way of creating the awareness of para-sports in the country. We pray that the next athletics team, the next team that will participate in a championship in Poland will do well from the Ghana Tennis Association. As you are aware, the Paralympic Committee of Ghana is doing a lot to make sure that our athletes are identified and are able to target and mount the podium. Mounting the podium in such championship gives them the opportunity to reach the peak, and that is to have the exposure of doing well in the global stage. Global stage, where our focus is at the moment, is to make sure that we get a strong team to represent the Republic.
Let's go on to other stories. An Arsenal boss, Mikel Arteta, says his side will have to do something special in Paris if they are to reach the Champions League final following a defeat in the semi-final first leg against Paris Saint-Germain. Ousmane Dembele's early strike at the Emirates left the Ghana student to overturn a 1-0 deficit against PSG in the second leg at the Parc des Princes next week. Let's take a listen to the manager of Arsenal, Mikel Arteta, speak after the game came to an end yesterday night.
We are half-time. My message has been exactly the same. Post Real Madrid at home, 3-0. Is we have to go to Paris and win the game, and we are more than capable of doing it because I saw two very good teams where the margins are so small, and they had efficiency in front of the goal, and their keeper as well made a difference to see the result that we've seen tonight. Certainly we don't score a goal and concede one, you have to, but we did a lot of things very well as well. We had a spell in the first, I think the game had phases, the first 15-20 minutes, especially them scoring so early in a great combination play when the margins are so thin, the finishing is unbelievable. And then we had especially one issue that we corrected after 15-20 minutes, and we sustained that for the rest of the game, which I think it turned the game around. And you want to win the Champions League final, you have to do something special, and we're going to have to do something special in Paris to be there.
Well, tonight, another game on when teen sensation Lamine Yamal says he's focused on his own game. That being compared with Lionel Messi, as Barca aim to reach the first Champions League final for a decade. Now, Barca have not reached the Champions League showpiece final since they last won it in 2015 with a team spearheaded by the god of football himself. They face Inter Milan tonight in their first leg. Let's take a listen to Lamine talk about himself and not being compared to Lionel Messi.
Me comparo con él. Mucho menos con Messi.
To anyone, let alone Messi.
Lo dejo a vosotros porque entre nosotros pensamos en mejorar cada día más nosotros mismos, en ser mejor que yo mismo al día siguiente. Entonces yo creo que esa comparación no tiene sentido con Messi menos aún.
So I don't think any comparison makes sense. I'm following my own path.
Como el mejor jugador de la historia, pero no me comparo con él.
The best player in the world, but I don't compare myself.
And that should be it for us.